Number 10. Seal of disapproval. It's better to be safe than sorry, and you should always practice safe sex. It's also best to be smart and use your head, the one on top of your neck. 25-year-old Salman Mirza and his ex did not do this. The two lovers checked into a hotel for an intimate encounter, but a night that should have been a lot of fun quickly turned into a nightmare. When they didn't have a condom in the heat of the moment, they decided on another alternative: epoxy glue. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you heard that correctly. To avoid a possible pregnancy, they glued Salman's genitals shut. According to the couple's friends, both Salman and his ex were addicted to drugs. They were both high as a kite when they did the deed, using the same substance they had often inhaled from time to time. After the sealing and the sexual encounter, the couple left the hotel without any issues. But hours later, Salman Mirza was found passed out in some bushes near his home. He was quickly taken to the hospital, but the doctors couldn't do anything to save his life. He died of a multi-organ failure caused by the glue on his penis. His family blamed his ex, accusing her of having killed him by putting epoxy glue on his genitals. And they're not wrong. But honestly, it was both of their decision to do something so incredibly stupid. Number 9. Death by air compressor. Compressed air is a serious business, and apparently it can also be used to murder someone. Two men from Japan made an extremely dumb decision that resulted in one man's death and one man being arrested and taken to jail. While working at the Ibaraki Tsukuba City manufacturing plant, the two guys were messing around on their break and decided to let his coworker force compressed air up his rectum. Yup, initiate the eye roll. They actually thought it would be funny to inject a blast of compressed air in this particular spot on the body. According to Fox News, a man named Yoshida blasted air up a guy named Ishimaru's butt and killed him. Just minutes after the air went up his butt, he got sick. He had to be taken to the hospital, and he later perished from internal injuries. His coworker admitted what happened to the authorities and was arrested for it. But what makes this story so exceptional is that in a statement, the police said it was not the first accident of its kind. This kind of thing happens more frequently than you would think. And what makes it even more remarkable is that the air compressor was not even pushed up against the man's skin, it was only pushed against his clothing. But the powerful release of air still went up his butt and caused immense damage to his lungs, which ended up killing him. Number 8. Gasoline cocktail. Gasoline is poison. Drinking gasoline is obviously a horrible idea, and when you add fire to the situation, you have quite the combustion cocktail. A man named Gary from North Carolina accidentally guzzled a jar of gasoline. Gross. He had been in his friend's apartment when he mistook a jar of gas for a jar of clear liquor. It seems pretty obvious that you shouldn't be drinking out of a random glass jar in people's houses, but don't worry, this story gets even dumber as we go on. So Gary accidentally drank some of the gasoline, he takes a big gulp, realizes what it was, and then spits the rest out. Some of it ended up dripping on his clothes. If he had just taken one gulp of gasoline, Gary would have lived to at least see one more day. But after drinking gasoline, Gary decided to step outside and have a cigarette. When he lit up, he burst into flames. He was immediately rushed to the hospital with severe burns, but unfortunately Gary died later that day. According to the Havelock police, alcohol was definitely involved in the incident. Are you surprised? Most dumb decisions are typically made while under the influence of alcohol or some other substance. Oh, and in case you live under a rock and didn't know that gasoline was flammable, well, now you do. On a scale of 1 to 10, how dumb is this guy? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 7. Distracted driving. This next one is pretty embarrassing, and there's a reason why most places have made it illegal to use your phone while driving. It's called distracted driving, and it is very dangerous. But one guy in Michigan took the dangers of distracted driving to a whole new level. According to the Detroit News, the driver had no pants on. He was watching adult videos on his phone, and he was driving down the street without wearing a seatbelt. One of the representatives from the Michigan State Police stated that it was one of the most bizarre incidents he had ever dealt with during his career as a law enforcement officer. The pantless driver lost control of his vehicle while watching his adult videos, the car rolled over, and he was partially ejected through his sunroof. As you can probably imagine, it was a gruesome scene that the police arrived to. The guy was horribly mangled and very dead when they got there. The lesson here is that the next time you're driving down the highway and feel a little randy, leave your pants on and put your phone in the glove compartment. Number 6. Exterminating brain cells. They say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You might say that's exactly what happened when a man burned down his parents' home, killed 3 pets, and ruined his own life, all because he wanted to exterminate some ants. The guy was not the sharpest tool in the shed, but he wasn't a monster. He was trying to get rid of the pesky ants by burning them, but instead burned down the entire house. According to the report from the New York Daily News, the guy was sitting in his basement flicking lit matches at ants. You might be thinking this makes sense for a young kid or a teenager, but this guy was actually 21 years old enough to know better. One of the flicked matches landed on a combustible material, sparking a fire that quickly spread. He grabbed some of his favorite things and ran out of the house while it started to collapse in flames. The fire department came, but it was too late. The guy was treated for smoke inhalation and burns on his body. 2 cats perished and 1 dog died, which makes you really wonder why he was carrying objects out of the house and not the living animals. What a prick. The house was trashed and the guy's parents were probably pretty upset when they got home. Number 5. Gender reveal reveals you are stupid. Whatever happened to cutting a cake and seeing if the inside was pink or blue, or popping a balloon full of pink or blue confetti? When did gender reveals become so intense? Dramatic reveal parties have been trending lately, with people doing all kinds of wild and hilarious things to announce the sex of their baby. But in September 2020, a disastrous reveal revealed one thing: these gender reveals need to chill out. A couple in San Bernardino County in California decided to use a pyrotechnic smoke generating device at their gender reveal party. It was a blast to say the least. In the video, you can see the partygoers at the edge of El Dorado Ranch Park, with one person leaning down to light the device. Moments later, everyone in the park is screaming and running away in a flurry of chaos as flames suddenly raged out of control. The fire immediately spread north, according to the fire department. The fire raged and quickly grew into a forest fire, burning over 8,600 acres of land. Nobody died in the catastrophic reveal, but let this be a lesson to you expecting couples out there, especially in California. You don't need to use anything flammable to announce if your baby is going to be a boy or a girl. Number 4. Facebook busted. A man named John Mogan II made a seriously dumb and incredibly bad mistake. He robbed a savings bank in Pickaway County. Maybe he thought he was Jason Statham. We don't really know. You have to be pretty stupid to try and rob banks these days anyway. But what's really crazy is that John may have gotten away with the crime had he just been a little bit more discreet about it. After taking all that money home, which was only about $6,000, John decided to brag about it on the internet. He took to what has become the downfall of many dumb criminals over the past decade: Facebook. He posted photos of himself holding up the cash he stole for roughly 6 billion people to see. Well, you know who saw those photos? The local police. John was arrested, and Judge P. Randall Nessie sentenced him to 3 years in prison. The judge also ordered that John repay the money he took from the bank. But the story isn't over yet. John was assisted by his equally dumb girlfriend, Ashley DeBow, who also pled guilty. She was charged with being complicit to the robbery and sentenced to serve 2 years. She was also sentenced to help her dumb boyfriend repay the $6,000. Number 3. Don't pee on the crocodiles. It's one thing to visit a lagoon filled with crocodiles and try to get up close and personal with one of them. That's a pretty stupid thing to do. Something even worse would be to try and pee on a crocodile. Also, that's really rude. The Nachupti Lagoon in Cancun is one of the biggest tourist hotspots down in Mexico, and it was most recently the site of a serious crocodile attack. It all started when a stupid tourist pulled down his pants and decided to relieve himself. As he urinated into the lagoon, a crocodile lurked below in the water. As reported by the New York Post, the crocodile leapt out of the water, clamped its jaws down on the guy's arm right as he was in the middle of doing his business, then tore his forearm off at the elbow. Ouch! It doesn't get much more gruesome than that. The guy struggled with the enormous reptile, but managed to escape and run away minus one of his arms. An ambulance quickly rushed the guy to a local hospital where he had emergency surgery. As of the time of the report, the man was in critical condition and fighting for his life. The lagoon where he decided to relieve himself is known to be infested with crocodiles, with some of the animals reaching at least 10 feet, or just about 3 meters in length. Number 2. Cookie dough. This next listing is dumb, but not because the person in question didn't have a lot of brain cells. You know how your parents always told you not to eat raw cookie dough? You probably ignored them and ate it anyway because, well, it's delicious. But you may never eat raw cookie dough again after hearing this. Years ago, a woman named Linda Rivera died after consuming a few spoonfuls of Nestle Toll House's cookie dough. She didn't die right away, but rather she suffered a very slow, painful death. It actually took 4 years for the cookie dough to kill her. Unknowingly to Linda, the raw dough she ate was contaminated with a deadly strain of E. coli. According to a report from ABC News, her kidneys stopped functioning and she later went into septic shock. She just kept getting sicker and sicker. Wait a minute, does this mean this is going to happen to you? Are you thinking of the cookie dough you ate last week? Don't worry, you're probably fine. Linda experienced an exceptional reaction to the E. coli that caused her to get sicker than normal. She suffered a brain injury and had to have many parts of her large intestines removed. She was even put on a ventilator for months at a time. Eventually, Rivera's body couldn't take it anymore. She died in 2013 due to the medical complications surrounding the E. coli she had been infected with many years earlier. But is the cookie dough to blame? Absolutely. Before her death, Linda actually made claims against the company that produced the cookie dough that killed her, which caused Nestle to recall the product in 2009 after dozens of other cases of E. coli poisoning popped up. I guess the only dumb person in this story was whoever didn't check the product before sending it to grocery stores. Number 1. Snake kisses. To truly learn and appreciate something, most of us have to learn the hard way. If you get a DUI, you most likely will never drink and drive again. If you're playing with fire and your eyebrows burn off, you probably won't play with flames again. Or if you're a toddler and you stick your fingers in an electrical socket and get shocked, it's fair to say that this would be the first and last time that happens. Most of the time, people learn their lesson, and that's that. They have a funny story or a gnarly scar. Normal people already know that some snakes are deadly, and if you play with one, you'll probably get bit, right? One of the more ridiculous cases of extremely dumb people playing with snakes is that of an 18-year-old man living in Tampa, Florida. The guy caught a water moccasin, also known as a cottonmouth. These snakes are venomous and should not be played with. Rather than run away from the snake like any normal human's instincts would scream at them to do, this guy took the 4-foot or just over 1 meter snake home with him, put it in a pillowcase, and stuffed it under his bed. If you're thinking, what the heck? Who in their right mind would do that? You're not alone. Seriously, who does that? According to a report from the Sun Sentinel, the young man was so fond of his newly captured serpent that he tried to give it a little smooch. The snake wasn't as into him as he was into it, though, and rather than accepting his kisses, the snake sunk its fangs into his face. We don't know about you, but we definitely saw that one coming. The guy had to be hospitalized, and the State Wildlife Commission opened an investigation. Fortunately, the kid didn't die, and hopefully he learned not to take wild venomous creatures home to make out. Number 10. Breaking into SeaWorld. In 2012, Welsh tourist 20-year-old Kerry Mules and 21-year-old Rhys Owen Jones were visiting Australia and got really drunk and came up with a really horrible idea. They decided to break into SeaWorld Aquarium located along Queensland's Gold Coast. Once they were inside, they swam with dolphins, deployed a fire extinguisher in a shark enclosure, and even stole an innocent little penguin named Dirk. The young men woke up the next morning to find a penguin in their hotel room and realized what they had done. Even though they were incredibly hungover, Jones and Mules did their best to care for the bird. But it didn't take long for them to figure out that they weren't exactly qualified. Instead of returning Dirk to the aquarium, the dummies released him into a canal. but a random stranger saw what they were doing and called 911. The two had also posted pictures and videos of their drunken penguin snatching escapade on their social media, and a concerned subscriber reported it to authorities. Thankfully, Dirk was found unharmed and was returned to SeaWorld, where he was reunited with his partner, Peaches. Jones and Mules admitted in court to stealing the penguin and wrote an apology letter to SeaWorld and to the public. The judge decided not to press charges and accepted the young idiot's explanation that they did not act out of malice, but reminded them that they could have ended up dead if they had gone into the wrong exhibit. They were each slapped with a $1,000 fine and a strong recommendation to be more careful with their alcohol consumption in the future. Number 9. The Fun Wedding. In February 2022, a Florida bride and her caterer were arrested for lacing food with marijuana and serving it to unknowing party guests at the wedding. The meal featured weed-laced lasagna and other baked goods. The guests had no idea they were eating edibles. After consuming the laced treats, some attendees felt sick and stoned and contacted 911. One of the attendees stated that some individuals thought that they were suffering heart attacks, which contributed to the panic calls to police. Other attendees had even worse responses, becoming so overwhelmed by the edibles that they began vomiting and needing treatment in a nearby hospital. The bride, 42-year-old Danya Glenny, has denied requesting the reefer-based dishes, and investigators say that the catering team had already departed when they arrived. Several enraged guests pursued the case, and investigators examined everything from lasagna and brownies to chocolate-covered strawberries and alcohol pudding shots. Deputies arrested Glenny and caterer Jocelyn Bryant of Jocelyn's Southern Kitchen in connection with the incident following an investigation. Deputies linked Glenny and Bryant to the scheme after speaking with witnesses and other caterers who served food at the party. The ladies face charges of tampering, marijuana distribution, and negligence. Number 8. Inappropriate Candy. In 2017, a Chicago man named Thomas Gorno sent a large chocolate candy bar to the McLennan County Sheriff's Office. But this wasn't your normal candy bar. It was huge and shaped like a certain male body part. He sent the candy bar to an employee named Tracy Chance, hoping he would find it funny. It was just supposed to be a prank, something to get laughs and to lighten the mood at the police station, but the police didn't find it funny at all. They took major offense, and the whole gag turned into a criminal case. For a little bit of background info, Thomas used to date Tracy's ex-wife, and the two men always had a weird relationship. They would often prank each other, and it seemed like a healthy rivalry. But apparently sending a chocolate candy bar shaped like a phallus to a police station Tracy worked at was crossing a line. Thomas ended up getting arrested, and the case dragged on for 2 long years. And just as the pretrial hearing was coming up, the district attorney's office decided they would dismiss the charges because the case was way too ridiculous. The district attorney saw that it was all just a prank that one party took a little too seriously. Number 7. Snake smooches. In 2015, a man in Florida tried to make out with a snake, and the snake almost killed him. 18-year-old Austin Hatfield caught a cottonmouth snake at his girlfriend's house a few days before and decided to keep the serpent as a pet of sorts. But he wasn't exactly nice to it and got the ultimate payback. Hatfield kept the snake in a pillowcase. Every now and then he would take the snake out of the pillowcase and show it off to his friends. Each time he would give it a kiss on the head before stuffing it back inside. Hatfield's decision to keep the snake and smooch it turned out to be one of the dumbest things he ever did. He was about to give it a peck when the snake pecked him back. It bit him on the mouth and his whole face swelled up like a balloon. He had to use all his strength to pry the fangs off his face and throw the snake on the ground. Hatfield was taken to the Tampa General Hospital, where doctors found him in critical condition. Luckily for him, Florida hospitals are used to taking care of snakebite victims. So, with enough anti-venom, he would make a full recovery. Aye, stupid is as stupid does. What's the dumbest thing you've ever seen your friend do? Tell us in the comments and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Number 6. Blowing up the garage. In June 2022, an unidentified man in Warren, Michigan had both his arms blown clean off by an explosion. It was in the middle of the afternoon when the victim blew up his garage. The fire then engulfed his entire home, and he was left in critical condition. According to police, the man had been working on some kind of explosive device when it all went wrong and quite literally blew up in his face. Luckily, no one else was hurt considering the power of the blast, and it was extremely lucky the man wasn't killed. The homes nearby also, thankfully, didn't suffer any damage. Turns out this wasn't his first rodeo either. The man had already been under investigation before and has a lengthy criminal past revolving around the manufacturing of explosive items and the dealing of illegal weapons. When the police searched his house, they discovered traces of explosive devices, over a dozen guns, 4,000 rounds of ammunition, and the ruins of a weapons lab. Last we heard, the victim was in a coma at the hospital. Number 5. The Horse Head. A man in Calgary, Canada left a horse's head in the mayor's driveway. Maybe this guy had watched The Godfather one too many times. He slapped an anti-vaccine sticker on the front door and left the head right out in the open for Mayor Jyoti Gondek to find. Before you lose your head, haha, relax, it wasn't a real horse head, it was made of latex. Still, the 43-year-old man responsible got into a lot more trouble than he probably thought he would. He snuck up to the house at 3:30 in the morning on April 19, 2022 with the horse head tucked under his arm and just left it in the driveway. He then sped away in his car doing burnouts up and down the street. He was ultimately charged with criminal harassment. He thought he was being clever and sending a message to the mayor, but ended up getting arrested. Number 4. Escape Room Escape. A homeless man in Vancouver, Washington broke into an escape room and had trouble escaping. Imagine that. 40-year-old Rye Daniel Wardlaw somehow entered the Northwest Escape Experience in the middle of the night in July 2018. While he was inside, he drank some beer that was being used as a prop and even ate a burrito. Soon he realized he didn't know how to get out of the building. He found a phone inside the property and called 911, and probably because he was slightly intoxicated, he told police that his home was being broken into. But by the time the cops showed up, Wardlaw had figured out how to escape the escape room. Officers found him lurking around a strip mall that was nearby. They immediately knew something fishy was going on and questioned him. They were able to link him to evidence found at the scene of the break-in. Wardlaw claimed that he had entered the business because he had nowhere else to go due to being homeless, but the cops said it wasn't an excuse and he was charged with second-degree burglary. Northwest Escape Experience is still open today, and Wardlaw's bad decisions keep piling up over the years. Number 3. Subway Surfer. In June 2022 in New York City, a young man made a really poor decision of being a daredevil by climbing onto the northbound number 7 train. He tried to surf on top of the train when he bashed his skull against something and fell. When the train arrived at 111th Street Station in the middle of the evening, the guy was lying on the roof of it with blood pouring out of his head. He was barely breathing when Good Samaritans climbed onto the train to help. It's unclear what he hit while surfing on top of the train, but whatever it was, it did serious damage, and the impact left him in critical condition. Luckily, he was still conscious when he was rushed to a nearby hospital. Within days, he had already undergone 2 surgeries, and it's possible he could have permanent brain damage. Quote, "Riding on top of a subway car is reckless, extremely dangerous, and inconsiderate, as it causes significant delays for other New Yorkers," said Pat Warren, MTA Chief Safety and Security Officer, in a statement. Quote, "Seeking a thrill that promises heartache for family and friends is foolhardy. Choose other avenues to have some fun, ones that demonstrate respect for those you care about." End quote. Number 2. Pranking the police. In February 2020 in Spring, Texas, a 17-year-old reported a fake robbery in progress because he wanted to see his friend get in trouble and maybe even beat up by the police. According to the teenager, it was all supposed to be a joke, but that wasn't the way it played out, and the cops didn't find it funny at all. It was about 4:40 on a Monday when prank robbery reports came in at the Easy Stop food store. The 17-year-old didn't even call the police, he texted them. "We didn't even know you could do that." He texted 911 to let them know there were 2 men currently trying to rob the store and that they had guns. Deputies were quick to arrive, but immediately realized there was no robbery taking place. They had been duped and were pretty upset about it. They interviewed people at the store and in the area, and no one had any idea what they were talking about. What the teenager didn't realize was that the police could easily figure out who he was since he had texted them off of his own phone. The dummy was charged with giving a false report, all because the teen said he wanted his friend, who had been on the scene at the time of the text, to get, quote, "jacked up by the police." Number 1. Wrong crowd. In 2014, in what can only be characterized as a parent's worst fear, 2 young girls left their family homes in Vienna, Austria to join the Islamic State terrorist organization in Syria. Samra Kesanovic and Sabrina Selimovic, then only 15 and 16 years old, left a message for their parents telling them to not come looking for them and that they were going to serve Allah and die for him. The young girls then appeared in an ISIS propaganda video, mixing with jihadis and holding carrying Kalashnikovs. Months later, news broke that one of the girls, believed to be Sabina, had died in a fight. Samra, the other girl, vanished. For several months, no one knew where she was until stories came alleging that an ISIS member caught her fleeing and beat her to death with a hammer. In light of the tragedy, a Tunisian lady who said she was detained in the same residence as Samra came forward. She said that the young woman was a sex slave and a, quote, gift for future combatants. Samra reportedly tried to flee many times before she was consequently murdered. Number 10. Ring the bell. Almost everybody loves Taco Bell. You can eat it for any time of day, and if you choose so, you can even use it as a weapon. Although that last one is really not advised unless you're a trained professional. 51-year-old Suzanne Hurlvert didn't mind though, as she was arrested for hurling a Taco Bell Burrito Supreme straight into the back of her husband Carl's head. She's a certified burrito slinger. The couple was fighting due to Carl's habit of going to the bar every night and drinking to his heart's content while his wife was at home alone. The argument eventually escalated to the point that Carl took the fork from his Taco Bell pizza and stabbed Suzanne with it. When police came to the scene because of the disturbance, they took note of how calm she was with a fork covered in taco remnants sticking out of her hand. The police also felt the need to mention how there were burrito pieces literally all over the room. It is a messy weapon after all. In the search for Carl, authorities found him at, you guessed it, the bar. Probably didn't even stop to clean the beef out of his hair. He was arrested for the food fight and domestic disturbance charges, just like his wife. A match made in heaven. Wouldn't you agree? Number 9. Penguins. Penguins have been admired by humans for centuries. With their adorable waddle and unique charm, it's hard not to love the little guys. But 2 Welsh tourists took their admiration a bit too far one night back in 2012. The pair had gotten incredibly drunk that night after visiting a few bars in the area. In their drunken state, they thought it would be the perfect time to go to SeaWorld. The only problem was that SeaWorld was already closed for the night, but that didn't stop these two. They decided to break into the aquatic park in Queensland, Australia, and check out the wildlife. The men had the inside exclusive on all the habitats, and they even took every liberty they could. They swam with the likely very confused dolphins and even got up close and personal with the sharks. Close enough to set off a fire extinguisher in their enclosure. But the highlight of their night was taking a cute little penguin named Dirk on a joyride. Yes, they kidnapped a penguin and brought it back to their apartment. When they woke up and discovered the creature had stayed the night, they did their best to care for him. This included putting him in the shower and trying to feed it. After realizing they were not up to the task, they decided to let him go into a canal. Thankfully, some people saw them and were able to stop the operation before it succeeded. The men were arrested and later released with a fine and a warning to drink a little less vodka. And don't worry, Dirk got back to SeaWorld safe and sound, although perhaps a bit traumatized from his night on the town. Number 8. Not even once. If you've been alive the last 3 decades, then you've probably seen the anti-drug ads run on TV, billboards, magazines, basically anywhere someone could see it. There's all kinds of campaigns from the DARE program with meth ads saying, not even once. And there's a good reason they exist. Their goal is to stop dangerous recreational drug use, but it hasn't exactly worked out as well as they hoped. Harmful drugs still exist and dumb people still do them. One such bright individual is named Chastity Hobson. It's common assumption that doing drugs like meth or cocaine can be harmful to your brain cells, and, well, Chastity makes this assumption look like fact. In a playful ploy, the Granite Shoals Police Department, located in Texas, posted a warning on their Facebook page. The post warned individuals who had recently obtained meth or heroin to bring the substances into the station so that they could be screened before use. They went on to write how drugs in the area had recently been found to contain traces of the Ebola virus and could be deadly. An obvious joke to anyone of sane mind, but not to Chastity. She took a sample of her drugs into the police department so they could, quote, run tests on it. Chastity claimed to be just, quote, a concerned citizen, but it didn't matter. She was still in possession of the substance, and she was quickly arrested by the cops in disbelief someone could actually be so stupid. Just goes to show you shouldn't believe everything you read on Facebook. How would you catch a stupid criminal? Let us know in the comments down below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 7. Beware of Bagman. After the past year and a half, we've all gotten pretty used to wearing a mask, but before the pandemic, masks were usually only worn by health professionals, the sick, and criminals. That last one didn't happen all that often, but it was a common trope portrayed in TV shows and films. But sometimes these tropes played out in reality. Introducing the fearsome Bagman. Bagman's true identity is that of Christopher Badman from South Wales. Get it? Badman? Bagman? Stay tuned for more puns. Anyways, Chris is not the smartest of criminals. In fact, he's one of the dumbest. While trying to rob a hotel during an Elvis Presley convention, Chris donned a plastic bag as a disguise. He may have had the right intentions here, but the execution was so poor, even the cops chuckled at his attempt. Chris was caught taking the bag on and off several times by the hotel's security footage. He even looked directly into the camera a few times, allowing authorities to get a good look at his face. With such concrete evidence, the police were able to easily track him down. Chris was placed under arrest and ordered to pay a fine of £900. If stupidity was a crime, Bagman probably would have been convicted of that too. And while he won't be facing off against Superman anytime soon, Bagman will have plenty of fun behind bars. Number 6. Ho ho oh no. Santa Claus is an icon around the world for bringing gifts and joy to all during the Christmas season. He's well known for sneaking down chimneys of homes and leaving presents at night. But anyone over the age of 8 knows that Santa isn't real. If this is news to you, we apologize for being the ones to burst your bubble. Despite this, one man thought it would be a smart idea to test out Santa's delivery methods, except he wasn't leaving gifts, he was trying to steal them. In the jolly season of December 2017, the 32-year-old man going by the name of Jesse Berube tried to sneak down the chimney of a local business in Citrus Heights, California to rob it. His master plan didn't work out as well as he thought though, because Jesse lacked Santa's magic and managed to get himself stuck inside the chimney. He was wedged deep inside the narrow crevasse where he had to dial 911 on himself in order to escape. When help arrived, fire department officials had to use special equipment to cut Jesse out, and it was pretty obvious that the man wasn't there with good intentions, so the police arrested him once he was free from the chimney. He was arrested on suspicion of burglary and was taken to jail. It's a good thing the actual Santa wasn't there to witness the stupidity of his crime. Jesse definitely earned himself a permanent spot on the naughty list, as well as one on our list for the dumbest ways to get arrested. Number 5. Passing gas. You know those movie scenes where someone is getting chased and they eventually have to hide while the pursuer is looking for them? Sometimes scenes like that can get so intense that even something as quiet as a drop of water could give the protagonist's location away. Well, this next listing isn't quite as cinematic as that, but it surely is more funny. Police officers in Missouri had an interesting interaction back in 2019 after searching for one loose criminal. The man they were after was wanted for possession of a controlled substance, and you'll never guess how they located him. Well, maybe you did. The man farted. Extremely loudly, in fact. So loud, in fact, that it gave up his position and led cops straight to him. After placing him under arrest, the law enforcement office wrote on their Facebook page jokingly about the incident, saying, "If you've got a felony warrant for your arrest, the cops are looking for you, and if you pass gas so loud it gives up your hiding spot, you're definitely having a poop emoji day." While the police were having fun laughing about the situation, it probably wasn't all that fun for the man who got caught, but out of all the ways to be found, this has got to be one of the stupidest. Number 4. Ice cream. Ice cream is a treasured treat enjoyed by all ages, sold in thousands of flavors, and can be found almost anywhere. So it's pretty upsetting when someone tries to mess with the frozen dessert, especially before people have bought it. The Adrian Anderson, in some strange internet prank, was caught on surveillance footage picking up a carton of Bluebell ice cream, removing the lid, and licking the entirety of the top of the product, then putting it back into the freezer for an unsuspecting customer to purchase. At the Walmart store where it happened, this simple prank turned out to be extremely costly, because apparently the store had to throw away all of the Bluebell ice cream they had in the freezers just in case others had been tampered with too. Anderson was later arrested and charged with Class A criminal mischief due to all the money the grocery store lost as a result of his, quote, joke. With the charge, he could serve up to a year in jail and have to pay thousands of dollars in fines. Thankfully, this trend has died down the last few years, but back then, people all over the internet were posting videos of themselves licking ice cream in stores, which is beyond disgusting. Next time you buy a pint, make sure it hasn't been tampered with. Number 3. Minty Fresh. Axe body spray is a staple among middle school and teenage boys everywhere to hide adolescent smells, and apparently the product has been used to try and get out of crime too. Who knew it had so many purposes? Well, we still don't encourage how this next entry, 49-year-old Efren Mencia Ramirez, used his body spray. The man had been drinking one night and made the stupid decision to drive while under the influence, which never turns out well. Eventually, he got pulled over by the cops and Efren panicked. He knew he was drunk, but he still wanted to play it off somehow, and so he came up with the perfect way. Not really. The officer doing the traffic stop was walking up to Efren's car when he noticed the man holding a can of Axe spray to his mouth. Efren was spraying it onto his tongue and down his throat to try and cover up the smell of alcohol. It didn't do a great job though, since there were empty bottles of alcohol all over the vehicle. When the cop asked him to step out of the car for a sobriety test, Efren failed with flying colors. The breathalyzer showed that he was almost 2 times past the legal limit for alcohol consumption. While he didn't fool the cop, at least Efren will go to jail smelling his best. Number 2. Parents' Weekend. College is a young adult's first interaction with experiencing individual freedom away from parental supervision, so it's understandable when some college students don't want their family to visit them, but one 23-year-old took it a bit too far. The man took it to the extreme when his parents decided to pay him a visit at school. Wanting to stop them at any cost, he found out their flight information and took it upon himself to call in a bomb threat. After the plane turned around due to safety concerns, airline and police authorities discovered the false claim, and the French student was later arrested. Bomb hoaxes are no joke, and the man now faces up to 5 years in prison for the stunt. At least if he goes to jail, he won't have to see his parents as often. Number 1. Arrested for biking? Riding a bike is supposed to be a cost-effective and safer alternative to driving a motorized vehicle, but is it really all that much better when you risk getting arrested on your commute to work? One man got the short end of the stick while he was out biking one day and a cop stopped him. The officer pulled him off his bike and onto the ground, while another came in for backup. The interaction was filmed by a nearby witness and posted online. After the initial assault the biker received, he asked the cops what he did wrong while lying face down on the street with handcuffs on. Their response? He had apparently committed a traffic violation. In case you don't know, you can get charged for jaywalking while riding a bike, or at least that was their reason for throwing the man off his bicycle and putting him into cuffs. The arrest happened in Texas, and police say that their actions were justified since the man was resisting arrest. But from the video, it doesn't look like he's doing anything but acting confused as to why he was thrown onto the ground and tasered. Upon further questioning, the cops simply said that cyclists need to follow the same traffic laws as those driving. This still doesn't justify the unnecessary force used in the filmed arrest. Whether you're on the cop side or the bikers, just make sure you wear a helmet and obey traffic laws next time you're on an evening ride. Thanks for watching the video. Have you ever been arrested for a dumb reason? Do you know any other stories of dumb reasons people were taken into custody? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time on the Bored Badger.